Howdy Meeps, and welcome to the Meeple Syrup Show.
Hey, welcome everyone. We're here with Meeple Syrup and Matt Holden from the Indie Game Alliance. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to learn all about the IGA and what it can do for you as an independent game publisher, maybe as a designer. So let's just get right down to it. Erica, you've got the first question.
Well, we'd love Matt to first introduce himself.
No, we don't need that. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
And then we really do want to hear where this came from, because this is quite the organization. So I know there's a lot of steps to get to it, and I think it'd be great to kind of hear about that journey to where they are now. So Matt, we'd love you to introduce yourself.
So as Sen said, my name is Matt Holden. My wife Victoria and I run IGA. We started it 5 years ago next month, and this is definitely a labor of love for us. It's something that I've long had a tremendous respect for folks that create, and that as somebody who's been a creative person in my life myself, it's often really frustrating when it's like I have this thing that I made and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to market it. I don't know how to sell it or whatever else. And that's kind of a background that I come from. I have a couple years experience running marketing organizations, also manufacturing organizations, and then I have a degree in game design. So I kind of felt like I sort of had a unique opportunity to put this together, and bring, various things that I've picked up over the years to try to help. It's something that nobody knows at all. But I try to listen a lot and, keep track of what goes well and doesn't, and kind of go from there.
Very cool. So do you want to explain a bit more about, I guess, you know what, why don't you tell us the story of how everything started then? I mean,
Sure.
We know you and your wife are running it. So let's hear, what were the stepping stones to get to where you guys are?
So after I graduated from Full Sail, I had a degree in video game design. I had some personal stuff that kept me from leaving the state of Florida, and to my shock, there were no game jobs to be found in Florida. And so, wanting to get involved with tabletop gaming in some sort of way, my sort of tabletop rebirth, as it were, in Full Sail, we had a class called Rules of the Game that was taught by the co-creator of D&D, Dave Arneson. And he taught us a variety of modern tabletop games, which in 2003 was stuff like Settlers of Catan and Munchkin. But that was kind of the aha, there's other games than Monopoly thing for me. And I was looking for an opportunity to get involved in gaming without being able to get into the video gaming industry very well. I have absolutely no art skills, so making a video game on my own was out of the question. So I started doing demos for Steve Jackson for Munchkin because I knew it from Dave's class. And I'd done that for maybe about 6 months or so, and I found that I wanted to modernize a lot of things. I had all these great ideas, and they've been doing this for 30 years, and they were like, slow your roll a little bit. And and there's nothing wrong with that. That's their organization and they do it their way. But I was thinking, I had spent all this time putting together this plan of all these things, and I kind of felt like it was a shame for it to go to waste. So I reached out to Brotherwise Games, the folks that do Boss Monster, and I said, I'd like to join your demo program. And they said, we don't have one. And I said, okay, well then I'd like to start your demo program. So I was an employee of Brotherwise for I think 4 days, and I put this whole pitch together, and it came down to, well, what are you going to do about rewards? Because if I'm a volunteer, I can go run Boss Monster 1,000 times, and what am I going to earn except more copies of Boss Monster, because it was the only game they had at the time. So they said, well, what if you got like 3 or 4 companies together, and you know, you can demo from A to earn B and vice versa. I said that would be a fantastic idea. They thought if we could get to 20 companies, we would be successful. We are currently at 1,152.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot of organization.
So we did it. When we launched, our goal was to have five members by Gen Con. We launched in April. We went to Gen Con with 63 and signed another 14 at the show. Basically chased the baby carriage down the mountain for 2 years until we caught up with the growth and got a handle on things. And we're now, you know, nothing ever grows as fast as you want it to, but we're controlling the pace now and doing things in a sustainable way. You know, I sleep once in a while now. That's pretty cool. So yeah, and you know, like I said, coming up on 5 years next month. Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, it's amazing to think, because I mean, a lot of people get their convention starts. They want to be part of a demo team, or, you know, work a booth sort of thing. And so it's amazing to think, to go from I'm going to work a booth to I'm going to organize all these people who organize, like, you know, actually run games at booths. And on top of it, I'm going to have an entire reward system that goes on in the background for their volunteer efforts.
And that's where we started, was we were just trying to be a demo team. And then over time, you know, I started to ask the members, you know, what are some of the other pain points you have about being an indie designer? And because I have a pretty extensive background in software development, I then started saying, okay, well, maybe we can build some tools that'll solve some of these problems. And so little by little, we started adding things like, you know, people said they needed a better way to collect play testing feedback. So I built a survey module that you can use on a mobile phone. You know, folks said they wanted, they were having trouble tracking down freelance artists for their projects and finding reputable folks. So I built a freelancer job board on our website with where people can go and recruit freelancers from, you know, 3D modelers and artists, graphic designers, translators, people that make Kickstarter videos, whatever you can think of, and putting together like eBay style feedback, where you can say, well, you know, I use this artist on my project and he, you know, did a great job, and this one, she you know, really helped me out when the chips were down, got something to me in 24 hours. She's fantastic. And, you know, and it helps our members to pick, you know, freelancers that aren't going to leave them high and dry, and also provide some great exposure for the freelancers too.
So it sounds like you're kind of creating a bit of a community in itself. It's interesting. It's like you're slowly adding all these bits to make it like this one-stop shop for publishers.
So we actually struggled with what are we for probably the first year and a half. We have this one minion who insists on calling us a consortium. And Nathan, if you're listening, I'm going to strangle you if you say that again at a con. But you know, we finally settled on that we're a guild. You know, in the same way as the Screen Actors Guild or any of that. We're a guild for. I just saw the crawl, not a consortium. It's fantastic. But we like to think of ourselves as a guild. It's a place where a bunch of artisans, people that create things, come together to get help, get services, support each other, and sort of have a tent to be in, to help kind of navigate their way through this whole process.
This is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it is. It's almost like it was funny when we were getting ready for the show. I was like, oh, I get what they do. And I'm like, do I though? I feel like there's so much more going on here.
Yeah, I find that what's interesting is that a lot of people who talk to me about IGA have heard about one tip of the iceberg,
yeah,
and it's never the same tip.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, you've got a lot going on, and I think one of the things that
Okay.
one of the things that
Random act of kitty.
yeah, one of the things that I'm always not necessarily confused about, but I don't think anybody except maybe you and your wife have a clear picture of everything that IGA does. And so I bet you if somebody asked me, oh, do you know somebody did this? I could just say, oh, IGA, and I'd be right. And that's good and everything, but maybe also not so good because it's like so nebulous. So I often don't think about the IGA when I think about solutions. I look at very specific, oh, that company does just that thing. So I need to refresh myself, which is why we invited you here, by the way.
Well, and I appreciate that. The thing is, generally, anything we either do it or we can get you a discount and help you find a good place to go and do it, where you can, where if we don't do it, we'll tell you someone who will, and we'll save you money doing it. So, like for example, we don't do Kickstarter fulfillment. Because it's my wife and I, and we have a not air-conditioned warehouse, and that's not how I want to spend my life. Mm-hmm. So, but we're just like, hey, talk to Quartermaster Logistics. They're 20 minutes down the road from us, and they do a fantastic job. And, we partner with them to get things done. I don't print games, but I recommend a slew of different manufacturing companies that do, and we've negotiated member discounts with most of them. And we often can take your existing Kickstarter, all the vendors you were going to use anyway, and shave $2,000 or $3,000 off of your total outlay just by going to all your vendors and saying, by the way, I'm IGA Pro member.
Wow.
That's huge.
Well, and for a first timer, that's often the difference between funding or not.
Right. Right.
That could be the shipping allotment that you didn't quite calculate properly.
and one of the other things we do, generally about a week before one of our members launches the Kickstarter, I'll do a 90-minute consultation with them on Skype. And I'll actually not only go through their Kickstarter page, but I'll go through their rewards. I'll look at their manufacturing quotes, and I'll make sure they're not doing that kind of stuff to them. And say, hey, just a heads up, you're saying $5 rest of the world shipping. Do you know that Brazil charges a ton of money for shipping? And people are like, I did not know that. And I try my best to, whenever one of our members sort of steps in it, to ask them, what went wrong, and sort of file that away. And then I allow through those consultation sessions for all of our members to learn from that mistake and make sure that they don't repeat it. And I'm hoping that the day will come, if it hasn't already, where a first-time Kickstarter creator saying that they're a member of IGA will actually help give the backer confidence that, this person hasn't been through this before, but they've got somebody in their corner that's going to keep them from going astray, and that, and that's not to say that things don't still happen, but, that what we do, we catch the basic stuff, the oops.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do it this way, because I think we're talking around a lot of things. Let's say that I am a person either looking to self-publish or I'm an indie publisher. Maybe I've only done it like once myself. I'm coming to you, right? How would you essentially kind of like, even if you approach me, like what would you then offer kind of like to help me out as I'm going ahead? Like, I think you kind of touched on some of it, but almost imagine like you're about to sell me on a package, and then I'm like, okay, I get what you do.
Okay, so I think it would depend on where in the process you were. So one of the first things that I would say is tell me where you're at in the process. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I'll hear is, well, we have 2 games that we already kickstarted that funded, and now I've got 400 copies of them sitting in my garage. I don't know what to do with. And then we have a 3rd design that we want to go to Kickstarter in 6 months. We're working on the art. So what I would then do is say, okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is let's help you move those 2 games you've already got made. So I would have them send us some copies, which we would put in our warehouse. And then number 1, those games become available when we go to conventions. We get vendor booths at as many shows as we can. And because we have 850 some volunteers around the country and around the world, we can be at a lot of shows where people can't. We've got folks that are like, I'm an English teacher and I can't get off, but their games are still selling at Essen.
Can you prioritize? Like if I came to you and I was like, I need to move this game, can you actually prioritize playing it in any way? Like just out of curiosity?
You can. We generally don't need to, because when new stuff comes into our system, our volunteers just pounce on it. They're super excited.
Okay.
But if you really want to push something, so like for example, Feudum that just wrapped up an expansion Kickstarter the other day. They did what we call a boost, and what that does, when our volunteers go demo a game, they earn what we call loot points that they spend on our store to get more games. So if you're listening and you're somebody that you're a college student and you're broke, or you're a middle-aged guy and you buy a lot of games and so you're broke. Our volunteer program is a fantastic way to earn games. We've got people that earn $200-300 a month worth of free games, and you go on our store, you spend those points just like they're an Amazon gift card, and we ship the games to you. And then if a game is on a boost, like what Feudum did to support their Kickstarter, anytime you spend demoing their game, you get double the loot points for it. So for Feudum, if you run a 60-minute game of Feudum, you were getting $8 worth of credit for doing that. So we had folks that would get 3 games going all next to each other, and exactly, and that's fine. As long as you're exposing new folks to, as long as you're exposing new folks to the game, you can demo in any public place. We have folks that do it at churches, schools, game stores, cons, of course. One guy that demos at a Panera Bread every Thursday. But
awesome.
Hey,
you go where the people are.
Just so you know, if you're in St. Louis, there are no Panera Breads, but there are St. Louis bread companies.
St.
Which
Louis
have
bread.
the same exact logo, because it's the same exact company.
It's the same thing.
So what probably happened is it's like the fast food joint Checkers down is called Checkers here. They're based here, and they're called Rallies in some states because
Oh my God! Yeah, they are. You're right.
And it's because there's another company called Rallies that has a trademark, but they bought it only in certain states.
Right.
And Panera, probably the same thing. Somebody had the Panera trademark, like in Missouri, or
no, that's where they started. And so there is a big story about it. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think what it is that they thought nobody would eat something called St. Louis Bread Company outside of St. Louis, and so they
at least unless the loaf is shaped like a big arch, then maybe you could get away with it. It's just a baguette that somebody sat on and it's bent.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Rallies and Panera Bread aside, that sounds like a really good demoing program. Because you have access to so many more things than just one publisher's catalog, right? And that's really good. Do you have minions all over the world, or is it just America right now?
We are active on every continent except Antarctica.
Wow.
I want to hear more about how this gets organized. So, okay, let's say there's a con. I don't know. You pick a place. How does this come about? How do you get all those people? How do you get the games? How do you get everything to that location?
Well, if it's in the United States, it's me, my wife, and a U-Haul.
Oh.
And for those of you keeping track at home, that's awful when you live in Central Florida, because it's a 24-hour drive to everywhere.
You guys personally will drive it anywhere in the U.S. How many cons do you go to?
I personally, my wife and I do probably about 20 a year, and then our team altogether, at least 100.
Okay, yeah, we need to hear more about this now. That's a lot of things to do at once.
Yeah, at one point we had 2 years ago on Memorial Day, we had 4 different teams at a 50,000 plus person show on the same weekend.
Wow.
So
because there's just that much demand.
yeah, because we had, it was like Dragon Con, PAX Prime, I think, some big show in Texas, I think, and a show in New York. We're all going off the same weekend.
Right. Yes, that is a giant weekend.
And so we had like 6-person team at each of those 4 locations. And I'm like standing in the back of a Dragon Con booth with my finger in one ear on the phone going, okay, you guys, you're filing your demos, you keep track of this. You know?
So do you have like somebody that you sort of have as your like local manager or organizer when you're not there?
Are you talking about at the convention sites?
Yeah, at the conventions. Is that what eventually happens? So we'll get into how you're maybe a bit more about your minion program. Like I gotta assume there's like tiers of it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to explain a bit about being a minion or where it's from minion?
So, yeah. Well, it was originally Minions because, like I said, we started with Boss Monster.
That would make sense. Okay.
And so we thought you're the Boss Monster and these are his minions, it's sort of stuck. At the time, they're plus we send people little minion stuff from Universal Studios and whatnot from time to time to mess with them. It's it's a good time, but so it was funny. We were toying between Minions and Henchmen. And we ended up going with Minions, and then somebody told me like a year later that there was another major program that used Minions, and they said, I'm pretty sure it's Minions, and I was like, man, I should have gone with Henchmen. And then I talked to the guy, and I was like, so tell me about your Minion program. He's like, actually, we call them Henchmen, and I was like, yes.
Okay, we got the other one.
It's like, whew. So. And then we do have team leads that do the larger conventions. We call them mini bosses.
Right.
And so we have active mini bosses. We have one in New York that handles pretty much everything in New England, and he'll come down as far south as like North Carolina, sometimes even into Georgia. Obviously, Victoria and I run the Southeast U.S. team. So we'll do, and we do the biggest of the big shows. Well, we're at Gen Con, we're at Origins, things like that. And then we have a mini boss based in Southern California that handles all of that, and into Vegas and Arizona. We have one in Nebraska that handles most of the Midwest. We have one in the Northern Oregon area that also goes up and hits Seattle and all that sort of stuff. We have one in London, and we are in the process of onboarding one in Germany.
So how did the European side sort of like, do you guys run all that as well? Like, do you go to all these things in Europe as well?
I wish. There was one year where I was all set that I was going to go to Essen. I had the time booked off and everything else like that. And then my wife was like, I think I'd rather go to Disney World for our honeymoon. Missed it by that much, but it's all right. Mickey gave us a good time, but it is definitely on my bucket list to go, but I have sent others in our stead, because it's a heck of a lot easier to say, hey, people in Germany who are already in Germany that already have stock in Germany, go to Germany than it is to, you can't drive a U-Haul there last I checked. So they don't make them with pontoons.
Right.
So, that's definitely, the international shows are a little bit of a challenge and something we're still working on getting better at. Obviously everything's easier when you can put your hands on it and do it yourself. But we have an absolutely fantastic team of people that just give so generously of their time, of their energy, to do this. And we could not do what we do without them. And they realize that we are, we still very much are a startup. It's still, like I said, my wife and I running the show, and they're very patient with us when we need when things are hectic. They're just good folks, and we really love working with them all. And the same can be said of our members too.
Well, so how does someone become? Let's talk about how someone becomes a minion, and then kind of like how someone becomes a member, and get a better sense of that.
So
I want to be a minion. What do I do?
You go to indiegamealliance.com/join, and there's a button there that says I want to demo games, and it asks you a couple of questions, the most complicated one being your mailing address. We have a really cool feature on there where if you track your game collection on Board Game Geek, you can actually put in your BGG username, and when you click the button, it will actually take. So the Avid Gamer is the one you want. It's the second one down on the left, I believe. Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's really small now. But you can put in your BGG username, and it will scan your collection and compare it against our database and tell you these are all the games you own right now today that are IGA demo eligible.
Wow.
So are they then experts on those games, or are they allowed to choose, or how does that work?
No, they can choose any game in the IGA catalog, whether they got it from us, whether they already owned a copy, and that's great because that way we don't really have to like seed people with games to get them started, because chances are if you love gaming enough that you want to demo games, you probably have some, and we work with, it's not just the itty bitty companies. We work with Greater Than Games, with Haba, with Level 99, Brotherwise, I said, Portal Games is a member, Mayday Games is a member, Level 99, Haba USA is a member, Daily Magic is a member, Blue Orange Games is a member, Eagle Griffin, Roxley. We actually just about 2 months ago took over Roxley's organized play program for them for Dice Throne.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're doing a whole custom OP program for them, and that's something that we're expanding into later this year to offer. Kind of Roxley's kind of agreed to be the beta tester for
that's
for
a
that.
Better word, yeah, than guinea pig. So you guys are going to do organized play systems. That's really interesting. Really, really interesting.
And I'm actually going to announce for the first time on your show that this is not the thing I teased earlier. This is another thing.
We'll have to tell them what the team.
Yeah, of course. But we are going to be launching probably early next year something called Iga Plays, which is going to be effectively an organized play program that is for one-off games. So we're going to put together kind of a general bracketing system for like, in a 4-player game, the winner gets 20 points, the second player gets 15, and so on. And so you'll be able to rise in the ranks by playing a mishmash of different indie games to sort of become the champion of indie gaming as a whole, as opposed to just being the guy who won the local Munchkin tournament.
Okay, so this would be something that would be carried around like this. The point score is held online, so you could be at any con and go to an IGA Plays event, and your score would rack up.
We're actually going to do it at game stores.
Even better.
So what's going to happen is our minions are going to go out to a game store with whatever game they want. That's part of the, we're going to have to put together a sanctioned list, and I'm not really in any position to discuss the details of it yet, because frankly, I haven't come up with them all yet. But what we're going to be doing is, minion goes to, and I'll just look and pick something at random off my shelf here. We were picking on Feudum earlier. Let's say Feudum. So a minion happens to have a copy of Feudum in his demo or her demo collection. She goes out and runs Feudum as part of the OP program. Any player who wants to be a part of our program will go on the website igaplays.com and create an account. We'll probably make an app or something for it. And then the minion will have software to track, okay, we ran Feudum, we had 4 players in it, and user, Ninja Squirrel came in first, and user, Taco Rabbit came in second, and so on. And they'll rack up these points. And over the course of a couple of months, we will have some sort of a champion of
Mhm.
who's earned the most points at their local store. The
Okay.
people at the local store will get invited to a regional convention event, maybe at, like Dragon Con and BGG and various distributed shows around the country and potentially around the world. And then we'll do a grand championships over the course of the 4 days at Gen Con.
Wow,
And
that's
so
impressive.
if they win this, what did they get to exchange the points for at the end?
They won't exchange the points. There'll be some sort of prize pack that I'll probably
It's a prize pack. Okay, I wasn't sure because it sounded almost like it sounded like a fun kind of alternate way of just play to win, where you're like, okay, I might have a chance at that one game, whereas now it's like maybe I have a chance at.
We'll probably do some of that on the smaller scale games, and then save the probably do like a $500 or $600 big pile of games to whoever wins the championship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
this is going to be specifically for, as you said, like just one-off games. So is this the idea that if someone has, let's say they're kickstarting their own game or have kickstarted their own game, this is the type of game you'd be considering for this play kind of structure?
Exactly, because there's for example, we're doing like I said, we're doing Dice Throne right now, and Dice Throne's been a huge hit, and it's the season 3 Kickstarter is coming later this year. A lot of folks are excited about it. And for them, it made sense to kind of keep it in their own ecosystem. And so we're running it, but it's entirely, it's all Dice Throne all the time. But then we're also going to have, like I said, this sort of big tent OP for folks that, for games that you might not have heard of. So you might not necessarily get excited if you saw a sign in your game store saying, "Hey, we're having a tournament of game I've never heard of." Oh boy! But if it's the come learn indie games and the understanding that you don't have to be a master of this game because it's probably going to be new to everybody at the table.
Yeah.
And it's not a situation where the most powerful card in the game is your mom's Visa. So I think it'll be an interesting alternative activity to do at game stores for people that are finding that Magic the Gathering every Friday is starting to get a little repetitive and so forth.
Yeah, it sounds like a great way to have a rotation of games that are not just new, but like just some opportunities to see something different. Because the great thing is potentially you could even be in different locations and not actually even have the same games to play.
Yeah, exactly. And not even that. Oftentimes, because you got to remember, the minion who's doing this is going to be earning loot points while they do. So the chances are you could go to your local game store, play a game, come back next week, play another game in the same tournament with a completely different game from a completely different publisher with the same team of minions.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really cool. Oh, okay, so I'm going to kind of flip the script a little bit. Eric, I hope you're okay with this. I'm going to ask you the question, Mike. Why should freelance designers join the IGA? What's the deal? I mean, I get it for publishers, but what about freelance designers who aren't self-publishing, who have no care in the world to self-publish? Like Eric and I, we're not self-publishing.
No.
But we're going to be designers for the rest of our lives. Is the IGA somewhere where we should go as well?
Yes. As a matter of fact, about 2-3 months ago, I think, we launched a separate tier of service explicitly for designers who are only designers.
Okay.
Because what we found is as we've added features, it's a lot easier to add services for publishers because they need more stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to be in a situation where we never want people to feel priced out of IGA. We try very, very hard to make things affordable, and we keep the lights on through volume.
How do we do it? Volume.
Exactly. And, when the hardest working member of our team is 40,000 lines of PHP code I wrote, you can get away with that.
Right.
So the IGA Lite plan we started it's $10 a month. So it's cheaper than Netflix now.
Okay.
And with that, we have a couple of things we'll do. Number one, you get access to our Minion network for blind play testing of your game. So you send us copies, we will send them out over the course of, however many copies you send us, we'll send out that many copies of the game minus one. We keep one at headquarters for backup in case Minion gets hit by a bus. You call me and you need you want to do a consultation and talk to me about the components or whatever. I can't magic one out of the air, so I'll generally hang on to one. It's also helpful if it's like, hey, we have a Minion going to a con at the last minute in Georgia 3 days before a Kickstarter launch. Let's get them out a copy, kind of thing. So we do that. As part of that, they get access to our survey editor to handle the whole playtesting feedback. They get access to a 10% off discount on making prototypes through AdMagic Print and Play that we negotiated, which, for a decent size, if you're talking about a game that's going to end up with a $50 MSRP, it's very likely that's a $200 prototype. And by the time you figure you need copies for demos, you need copies for reviewers, everything else like that, that can add up pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So we offer that. We also offer a network of publisher speed dating, which we do at shows like the big show in Indiana that I'm not supposed to mention in the same sentence as publisher speed dating. We also do publisher speed dating at Dice Tower Con, at BGG. We're doing one at Southern Fried Gaming Expo in July. A whole bunch of them, and designers, even designers who are not members of IGA at all, can sign up for our speed dating events on publisherspeeddating.com. We're taking applications for Dice Tower Con right now. And so we'll go out and demo that. But as long as I'm at those events, I'm also scouting on behalf of the IGA member publishers. And so a lot of times I will, because I keep a database of the publishers we work with and the kinds of games they're looking for. So, for example, I spoke with Frank Alberts, who runs Zafty Games. He's the designer of Pixel Glory. And I found a game that I thought was a fantastic fit for his first not designed by him
Was it a co-op? Was it a co-op?
It was very not a co-op.
But he really wants a co-op.
I pitched him 2 last week.
Okay, good.
And I actually sold him another game last week. But I'll leave him to announce which one that was. But I literally kidnapped him from Dice Tower Con and brought him to my house and sat him at a table and was like, play this. And they signed the contract in the car on the way back to South Florida after that.
That's awesome.
And kidnapping is not normally part of the IGA service. That's generally handled a la carte. But we do a lot of, I probably sell 30 to 40 games a year where I just say, hey, publisher, I found a game that's right up your alley. And it works out well because the publishers know that I know what they're interested in. I'm not going to go to Haba USA and say, here's a 4-hour Euro, So, I think because of that, they're inclined to take my call. And they're inclined to, I don't think I've ever pitched a game to somebody where they didn't at least ask for like a real pitch with the designer. And there have been times that a designer can't go to a con and I've actually pitched the game for them at Gen Con.
Mm-hmm. So you're working almost like an agent kind of idea.
Exactly. That's probably what we're going to end up calling that service, just because it's a heck of a lot fewer words to say. But I want to make sure there's no like.
That's only 2 words. I like that.
Yeah, but it's kind of like we didn't use the word guild for the first year because I wanted to make sure that like there wasn't like some sort of like legal thing that means that we weren't doing.
Well, you could have been a consortium, right? So
we could have been. But we're not.
Yeah.
We were a collective for a while. We were a cooperative for a while. One person called us Tabletop Borg.
Okay.
A little bit of everything.
That just seems like an insult. But
not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took it in the way it was intended.
We have some actual questions from the audience and from the Meeple Syrup page. I just kind of want to go through them and see what you think. So let's see what we've got here. We have. Oh, what are we doing? We're doing
I don't know.
We're doing.
I'm just sitting here talking and petting the cat.
Okay, so I am going to say, do you offer this for indie designers, straight for the designers, not necessarily a publisher, but a designer? And you can tell me yes or no.
It's funny, doing stuff like this is how the ideas for about half of our features came from.
Perfect.
You know, people were like, do you do this? And I'm like, not yet.
Right, but we can. No, but we could, right?
Like, not yet, but give me 20 hours over the weekend and by Tuesday.
Okay, let's see here. Group insurance plans.
I actually spent about 2 hours Googling that today.
Well, there you go.
To see if that was something that we could do. So apparently there is such a thing as a I think the word they used was a trade association based group plan.
Yep.
They exist. Like the Writers Guild of America has one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not yet know what the costs would look like for that. It is something I'm actively researching. I don't want to promise anything, but we do offer some other things that are kind of like benefits that you might get in a larger company. Like we're actually announcing tonight, so I guess I'm announcing this on your show too.
Yeah.
We signed a partnership with an organization called Tickets at Work, which is a thing that larger companies, Fortune 500 companies, use to get their employees discounts on things like Disney World tickets, movie tickets, Broadway show tickets.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And we think that's great because who in the gaming industry doesn't like fun? But the thing that we thought would really
hate it.
But the thing we thought would really be super cool about it is you can also get like 40 to 50% off renting rental cars and hotel rooms,
That's
which
cons.
Yeah.
Well, like for example, the convention that Dice Tower, the hotel that Dice Tower convention is at this year, members get like $60 a night off the hotel of where the actual convention is.
It's worth it just to get your membership then.
Well, and it doesn't cost anything to join.
Then there you go.
Yeah, because that offer is going to be available not only to our members, but we're extending that one to our minions too.
Oh wow, okay, that's really nice. So do minions get a lot of these perks as well, or just some things?
Not as many as I'd like. I've been trying really hard to work with people. We worked with Meeple Realty for a while and got them some discounts on things. Okay. I'd really like to expand that side of the business, but it's often tough to do. Some of the easiest ways that I've been able to sell that is like, hey, well, when a minion goes and demos this game, you want them to have the Groovy insert in there too, or the Groovy playmat too, or whatever else like that. But the problem is,
I like you use the word groovy. I like that, groovy.
Of course, gotta use good words. You know what else is a good word that I just look for any excuse? Ziggurat is just a fantastic word.
It is. It's not a temple. That's a ziggurat.
It is a ziggurat. I actually have a model ziggurat on my desk.
I believe you do. I totally believe
it's got meeples all up in it.
That's good. I like that.
It is a meeple-sized ziggurat.
Other questions. So Elizabeth Hargrave, who is, obviously Wingspan, wants mentorship and networking. Is there something the IGA does with mentorship and networking, or could do, so that we can help up-and-comers, especially, less visible, marginalized, people of color, et cetera, et cetera? That's definitely what she's into.
I will say a couple of things. Number one, yes, you can get mentored. Like I said, I do consulting sessions, not just about Kickstarters, but about my pro members can do a 90-minute consult with me about any topic they want. Once a month for 90 minutes. And that can be anything from a Kickstarter to help me come up with a marketing strategy for the game I already made that I want to sell. Help me. There have been times where I've gotten together and like actually designed a solo mode for somebody that wanted to add it to a game. at one point we talked about ways to. I spoke with a designer about how we could refactor the game to get the same amount of fun with fewer components to drop the MSRP or to get it in a smaller box size. I've done consultations about like how do I make an app for this game. We also have a private Facebook and a private Discord group for our members. That is, it's restricted access to just IGA staff, which is really Victoria and I, and our new community manager, Kurt Winkler, who we just hired a couple weeks ago. But you can also go in there and be like, hey, my Kickstarter's on day 4. It's not really taken off like I'd like. What's going on? And people reply and say, well, I had an issue where, maybe I had this problem. But you're not just talking to other people that have never done it before. You're also, you might get an answer in there from, somebody like James Matthey or somebody like, Patrick Letter or folks that have raised, $1 million on Kickstarter, and they'll be like, here's what works for me. I find it amazing that question came from Elizabeth, considering, I would love for her to be mentoring our designers, considering she basically made the game of the year. But
I think that's what she's getting at as well, though, is like she wants a way to do that too, right?
And the IGA is a fantastic way to do that. Like I said, you can do it on Facebook, Discord. We even have it happen on Twitter a little bit sometimes, but it's not really the best medium for that sort of thing.
No, not really. Okay, and Seth Johnson asks, for contract review assistance, because nobody, especially first-time designers, should have to puzzle that out on their own. What do you think?
So I am not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to be one. But we do have a lawyer we work with that I can recommend. His name is Zach Strebeck. He goes by the board game lawyer, and he is a ninja for that sort of stuff. And his rates are extremely reasonable. I believe he still offers a discount for IGA members, and he does probably a dozen of those before breakfast. So he's probably got some boilerplate you can use and so forth to help you out with that. But like I said, I've been to many different kinds of school. Law was not one of them. And I think I'd rather stick to finding loopholes in rule books.
Right. So are you saying that Zach would review a contract for you? Or when you say boilerplate, that sounds like he's giving you a contract to use on something else.
He can do it either way.
Okay, cool.
You can either come to him and say, here's a contract a publisher gave me, or you can say, hey, I'm a publisher and I've never signed a game before. Can you help me come up with something that will protect me and also be fair to the designer? And he'll give you something that is basically you plug in the numbers and the names of the games and stuff, and you'll be in good shape there.
Okay. Paul Saxberg from Roxley wants you to deter him from running a Kickstarter before he's ready. So I guess that would go in the consultation phase, right?
Someone review your before you hit anything.
I will make you a deal, Paul. I will happily talk you out of the Dice Throne Season 3 Kickstarter, but you have to send me a prototype because I don't want to wait for it anymore. And neither do our minions, who have also, as part of Paul's new organized play program, are also now called Diceroys.
Diceroys. Oh my gosh.
Diceroys. So if you want to run organized play for Dice Throne, you can become not only a minion but a Diceroy and run OP for that and earn loot points toward any other game in our system that you'd like to play.
I love this whole organized play thing. I think it's great. Victor Hugo Sistenas asks for blind playtesting swaps, like a Secret Santa but for blind playtesting. And Nicholas Yu adds the ability to keep the same testers as the game goes through various iterations if possible, so you get staged feedback as the game evolves. Any possibility of that?
The first one we don't do, and the reason we don't is because when we were just like assigning playtests to people, we used to do that. We had a playtesting service, and it didn't work. It was poorly designed, and what was happening is a lot of minions, we'd have like one guy who'd be like, I'll play test, and we'd send him 40 prototypes, and then people would wait 6 months for feedback, and that was, or he'd get sick and, decide to go to nursing school, and, that'd be the end of that.
Right.
And, the other thing we found is, we would send somebody a game to play test, and they're, they like Machi Koro, and I send them, some big miniatures war game, and they're like, derp. I don't know, and that would result in oftentimes really bad skews in the feedback. So what we do now is we put our prototypes in a separate area of the reward store, and minions who've earned at least 100 loot points over time. You don't have to pay for the prototypes you do. Sorry, my battery is running low on my laptop, so I'm moving to where my plug is.
That's fine.
It's not cam, okay. But so you can get access to the prototype store. You can check out up to 2 prototypes at a time, and you have to conduct a minimum of 5 plays of that prototype.
Wow!
And you have to gather a minimum of 5 times X plays or player surveys from players, where X is the minimum number of players for the game. So if it plays 2 to 4, you got to get at least 10 surveys. And then as for the iterative aspect, we do have it where you can sign up to be in communication. We create dedicated Discord channels for the playtests we run, so you can do voice chats with the minions and talk them through if they have questions about things. Cool. You can also create a video certification program on our site. So you can upload a how to play video, and the minions will watch the how to play and then fill out a quiz to demonstrate that they understand the rules. Which is also a great way to do blind playtesting for a bunch of people in a hurry. It's like, here's the rule book, here's the quiz. If you can't pass the quiz after you read the rule book, there's probably something wrong with the rule book. We also do play tests and demos on both Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia.
Do you help designers get that stuff on there, or only if the designers already put it on?
I don't personally, but I have minions that do.
Okay, wow.
That's not an IGA service. That's something they do as a freelancer, but they give our members like 50% off or something like that. And they said the turnaround time for a boss monster size game, so 168 cards and in 5 or 6 decks, they said took them about 5 or 6 hours, and I think they only charge like $15 or $20 an hour to do it. So
that's probably worth it if you don't have time to do it yourself for the skills, right? Very cool.
We also partner with a company called Vorpal Board, which they're launching on Kickstarter in a couple of months. And that's the thing that's this like really groovy like webcam scanning device that they built that allows you to, like, if the 3 of us are sitting here, I can have a copy of the game in front of me, and I can actually scan the components in as we play, and the 2 of you get a virtual tabletop, and I have the physical components, and we're all playing off of the game without any need to like create a mod as you would for like TTS or Tabletopia.
Wow, that's really cool. More questions. People want publisher contacts, so the sort where they might get to talk to a publisher about mid-game development. Something where they could talk to a publisher, reach out to a publisher for feedback. I'm not sure exactly what Jonathan wants there. It's Jonathan Philip Chambers. But
so 1, you can do that in our Facebook and our Discord groups. 2, you can do that in the publisher speed dating group we run. 3, if you're just basically looking for a list of like publishers' emails, we don't do that because we don't want to become a spam factory for our publishers.
Of course not.
But what we will do is you can take a sell sheet for your game, post it on the IGA site, and also post it on publisherspeeddating.com. And then that site is openly searchable by publishers. So a publisher can log in and say, I'm looking for a 4X game with a space theme that plays in an hour and has a $40 or less MSRP. And it'll say, here's 6 sell sheets we found that match that description. And then
how does the user tag the sell sheet with those like meta tags, or do you?
Yes, and we can import them from Board Game Geek if it's already set up on BGG.
Very cool. Okay, cool.
And they can also search mechanics, so they can say, like, show me anything except deck builders. I don't want a deck builder. So, Frank Alberts went on there and said, show me everything that's co-op the other day.
Right. That Frank guy. He's a good example. Dave Tomei asks for things that will help with collaborating on generating documented methodologies, techniques, skills, processes to facilitate faster and better designed games by all designers who are part of the organization. And as an end result, better for the publishers and consumers.
That sounds like a hell of a mission statement for somebody.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I hope somebody wrote that down. But
David did, right, in our Facebook. So
well, there you go. So we put together a manual. Actually, that was one of the first projects that our new community manager Kurt Winkler did for us. We have one for minions and one for designers and publishers. That is not only best practices, but is also kind of a user's manual for IGA. Because, like we talked about, there's sort of a lot going on in IGA, and a lot of times people kind of don't step back far enough to get everything in the picture.
Right, which I think is my problem with IGA, right? Like I close and I need to step back further to see everything in it.
Like these packages for people.
Yeah.
They know what to, and like, I'm this. What do I?
We actually did. If you go to, if you want to scroll it on the bottom of your thing, if you go to indiegamealliance.com/studios/pro, you'll get 3 swim lanes, which is one is IGA starter for hobbyists. One is IGA Lite, which is for I'm a designer only, and one is for IGA Pro, which is for publishers, and it comes with all of the designer benefits too, because a lot of our publishers are self-publishing.
Yes.
And it talks about
indiegamealliance.com/studio?
Studios plural /pro.
Pro.
Okay. There we go.
I think we're getting close to the final word, but is there any other really important ones you want to ask from the list?
Let's see here. Already the playtesting swap, linking games to publishers. Doug Lewandowski is talking about encouraging minimum percentages for royalties, specific about reversion rights, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So that would be IGA kind of being almost an advocate on both sides to say, hey, you should do this.
And that's something that I agree with Doug on. Doug, shout out to Doug. Doug was, I told you, Brotherwise was our first member. Doug was our second.
Just Doug as Doug.
Yeah. When he was kickstarting Gothic Doctor.
Right.
2014.
Oh man, Gothic Doctor.
Yep, that was our very first playtest game we ever did.
Too hilarious. I work with Doug a lot, and I keep on forgetting about Gothic.
Yeah, Doug is a solid dude.
Oh, yeah.
And he's absolutely right. That is something that we are going to be adding to our manuals as we go. Kind of for phase 1 on that, we wanted to focus on the functionality of IGA, just because, like I said, a lot of people kind of miss the forest for the trees a little bit with it. And so we wanted to, kind of make it a little easier to navigate the arsenal of stuff we do.
Right. And I think that's sort of, in my opinion, the hardest thing about having something like you have, because I'm going to call it up on screen right now and go solo with it. This is like all the stuff, right? All the stuff that the IGA Starter, the IGA Lite, and the IGA Pro have for it. So there's all sorts of things that IGA is able to do for you as a hobbyist, as a designer, or as a publisher. And I think this is a great way to show it with like the swim lanes, right? And I think that's very nice. Last question, and this is from, oops, that's my Facebook. This is from Kate.
I'm also more than, if these questions are coming in on your Facebook, I'm more than happy to jump in there after we're done talking and answer them on Facebook as well.
Perfect. I think people would really enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't want folks to not get their questions answered. So
yeah, and I think the last one is just a really interesting one. Kate Bullock writes that she would like clear policies and bylaws with a functioning inclusion and safety policy, leadership board, and membership expectations. So if there is an organization, do you police that organization at all, or have policies in terms of membership and inclusion and safety and all those things, or is it you pay your member, you could be Hitler and be a member?
So
a good question.
It is a good question. It's very sad that it's a question we have to answer in 2019, but it is. Mm-hmm. So IGA's policy is we will never, number one, and this is a much longer answer than I can give in a short amount of time, because it's important and I don't want to leave things out. I will say our entire conduct policy, our entire acceptable game policy, all of that stuff is on our website, and I'm happy to share links on your Facebook once we're done chatting.
Yeah.
But the TLDR of it, we have never had to throw a minion out for it, which I'm very proud of. But we have thrown a couple of designers out of the alliance, and a couple of publishers, and we have done that. I'm not going to name names or anything like that,
you know how
but we have punted a couple of people for making games that we felt were objectifying toward women, or other categories of people. We will not touch a game like that. We will not touch a game that is overtly or identifiably racist or sexist or homophobic or any other ist you can come up with. We will not ask any volunteer to demo a game they are not comfortable with ever. We do not support games that involve any sort of non-consensual sex, any sort of we're very, very careful about the chainmail bikini stuff. We don't believe in that. We have punted a couple of people for being verbally and in some cases physically disrespectful with people at conventions. We will not touch people who do that. We're real proud of the fact that probably around 30% of our designers and about 45% of our minions are women. That matters to, they say it's not supposed to matter, but it matters to me. It's important to me because I feel like those people, women and people of color, need to be amplified in this industry. They need to, we need to be doing more to make up for some of the things we've done in the past and make it clear that those people are welcome and encouraged to be a part of our industry. And we will never support a game. We will never support a publisher. We will never support a minion. We will never support anything that does not abide by those values. The three core headers there's actually four. We added a fourth core headers in our conduct policy, and it is respect the games, respect the players, respect the venue, respect yourself. And nothing, of course, each of those has a million bullet points under them, but that's what it's all about. There's we can call boardgametables.com and we can call the ultimate game table people, and they will make a table big enough for everybody. We don't have to leave anybody out.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay. You know what? We are running out of time. And so, Matt, can we ask you for your final word? So you can plug something that's coming up. That'd be great. We'd also love you to give maybe one little piece of advice to people, other than, maybe take a look and try to, think about joining the IGA because it sounds great. What's some advice?
I mean, I'm a little biased on that one. So
I know you are.
That's the thing. As for a plug, I do want to announce that launching this Sunday, we are launching a service called Project Katamari. And what we've done with Katamari is attempted to crack one of the final walls in this, which is it's very difficult for indie publishers to get their games into distribution. And so we have partnered with Golden Distribution and with several other smaller distributors around the world. And IGA has become a consolidator, very similar to Impressions or Hit Point Games or PSI. The difference being we do this on a smaller scale. So we've come up with a kind of a unique way of interacting with the distributors, such that there is no risk for anyone. And as a result of that, we can take all comers. which means if you are not a member of one of the existing consolidators, because they all require exclusivity agreements, as far as I know. IGA does not. But if you present us with a game, your game will be in distribution. Period.
That's amazing. That is literally, I think, the dream for a lot of the smaller, boutique publishers who have like 1 or 2 SKUs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because for those folks, it's for the same reason that retailers deal with distributors because they don't want to deal with a million vendors, is getting to the point that the distributor doesn't want to deal with a million vendors either. Mm-hmm. And so, and with new ones popping up and going down all the time, they're looking to streamline their supply chain as well. And IGA, through some creative software, has enabled that to basically list everything on those distributors' websites as if they had it in stock, and then we do the shipment just in time from our warehouse when the games sell to distributors.
Right, and if you want more info on that, on that link that we talked about before, how do I get my games into distribution on the IGA site? It's right there. It has a big star next to it because it's a new feature. So go check that out. Matt,
piece of advice. What would you give if you were gonna, as your sign off?
The biggest piece of advice that I give to particularly new designers is don't be afraid. There is a massive learning curve to this industry and to all industries. A lot of people think, well, I made a game and I don't know what else to do. I don't want to go through the learning curve of, now I have to figure out what the tax rate is in China and things like that. And that kind of stuff, mistakes can happen and it can get bad. But number one, there is so much help in the industry, and IGA is just a tiny, tiny fraction of it. I have never seen an industry where people who in any other industry would be considered competitors are so generous with their time and their advice, and they will, if you approach them with an open mind and you ask your questions honestly and you accept constructive criticism, there is no question you can't ask. And I've never met a designer or a publisher that would not give of their time, of their experience to help you. And the other thing is, nearly any problem you create can be fixed. Sometimes the fixes are expensive and sometimes they're time consuming, but they can be fixed. And, if you launch on Kickstarter and people are like, oh my God, what if it doesn't fail? What if it fails? If it fails, you take a deep breath, you dust yourself off, and then we have a talk. I do just as many consultations after a Kickstarter where it was successful and they say, what do I do now to get the game manufactured? As they do saying, I failed, what do I do to succeed next time? Okay. And the Kickstarter never says no. Sometimes it says not yet. And, and when that happens, don't be discouraged. There's always room to grow. There's always room to learn. Like I said, I've been doing nothing but this for 5 years, and I'm still learning new stuff every single day. And the day that I stop, I know I'm doing something wrong.
That's hilarious because Paul Saxford just said, I have already learned something today. That's so awesome. That's good. So, Matt, how can people reach out to you other than the IGA website, which is indiegamealliance.com? How can people find you?
You can find us on our Discord. The easiest way to get to that is indiegamealliance.com/Discord. You can find us on Facebook at Indie Game Allies. Alliance didn't fit. You can find us on Facebook. We have a support number. We even have a fax number. No one's ever used it, but by God, it's there.
Someone needs to use it now, just to see.
I am sure somebody is Googling what is IGA's fax number now.
What is it?
Honestly, I don't even.
It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never used it.
It's there, but nobody knows it.
Somebody asked for one in a convention application like 3 years ago, so I signed up for some free monthly fax plan, and it's sitting there.
Sure, you can say you got it. It's fine.
Yeah, one day somebody's going to ask for it, and lo and behold, it's going to be there.
There you go. So lots of places to reach out.
Yeah, all of our contact information for all of our social networks and everything is available on the bottom of literally every page on the IGA website.
That's great. And so again, for even freelance designers who aren't thinking about publishing, for less than it costs you to watch Netflix a month, you can have access to a whole lot of really great services through the Indie Game Alliance. You know, it's not just for publishers anymore, right?
Well, and I mean, we actually have 10 different categories of membership now.
Right.
Because we have the designers and publishers. We also have localizers, which are publishers that do just republish games in other countries after translating them.
Oh, so funny. That's a subcategory.
Yeah. We have. You can join as a freelancer to promote your work and get hooked up with jobs. You can join as a retailer or a distributor. You can join as a rep from a convention that wants us to come out and work your shows. You can join as a partner where you offer discounts to our members like the manufacturers and stuff do. You can obviously join as a minion. So, you know, we've tried as hard as we can to figure out a way to find something we can do to help everybody in this industry to get a little more ahead and a little more integrated.
Very cool. So even though you're indie, you don't have to be alone.
There you go. There's a new catchphrase right there.
I really dig that. I might have to go up that.
You can totally steal that. Cool.
Slogan made.
So,
all right. I think we call it a night.
Yeah, we're gonna call it a night. So you can reach me and Erica on Facebook at the Meeple Syrup page. Erica's Frenemy Games on Twitter. I'm Senfeng Lim on Twitter. And next week we have a Designing the Game. And I've kind of been slacking, and I forgot to put up the poll.
Which so we don't know what game it is.
Which we don't know what game we're gonna do. We're gonna deep dive into next week. So I'm gonna post some stuff on the Meeple Syrup Shop Talk page, not the Meeple Syrup proper page, because Shop Talk I can do more than 2 options on the friggin' poll.
Guys, we can go up to 3.
No, we can actually go way more than that.
I know.
I am probably going to limit it to 3. So Erica and I are going to take a couple minutes after the show's over, list out some games that we've all played, and maybe poke Jesse in the head. He's at PAX East right now. Well, he's in Boston for probably a neuroscience conference, but he's at PAX East as well, and get some games that we all have played, we all know, and then we'll put it all together on a poll for you. So anyways, thanks so much, Matt, for coming. It was super awesome to have you. Like, every 2 years is too much. So I know you have something to tell us later on this summer. So you're going to have to let us know when you want to come back on. We'll have you back on. Even if it's on a different time, different day than the Wednesday night thing, we'll have you on to announce to the world what new and awesome thing the Indie Game Alliance is doing. We are working on, when I started IGA 5 years ago, I had a list of everything we wanted to do. And the last one, the sort of the capstone to this whole endeavor is probably coming in July. So a very big bronze statue of Matt in front of Universal Studios.
Well, I will say this: any statue of me would definitely be big and broad. There's just no other way to do it accurately. But no, we are going to be launching Project Pharos over the summer. There are about 8 people on the planet who know what it is, and when it is a thing, we're definitely
Pharos.
Pharos, yes.
All right.
It is a Greek word. It is. It was the proper name of the library of the lighthouse at Alexandria.
Oh, okay.
One of the 7 wonders of the world.
Well, this will hopefully be one of those. All right. So without further ado, we will say goodbye. And well, I guess that is adieu. We'll say adieu to you and you and you. All right. Good night, everybody.
Yep. And again, I will be on. I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then I'll be on Facebook to answer any questions we didn't get to in here.
Okay, so that's on the main Meeple Syrup page, of which I believe you're a member. So go right ahead.
If not, I'm pretty sure you'll approve me if I ask to join. So
yeah. All right, we'll see you later, Matt. Thanks so much.
Erica's like, I've had enough of you. I'm going to pet my bunny now.
Okay.
he's just getting in the way.
That's a funny way to end the show. Okay. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Take care, both of you, and everyone out there. All right.
Thank you for watching the Meeple Syrup Show. If you'd like to help support our show and the podcast, please visit www.patreon.com/Meeple Syrup. Thank you for your support.